Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Shirley, do we have roll call?
I have taken roll call. Everybody's here but Wyatt Irwin and Kent Porter, but you do have a quorum.
Okay. And next, the consent agenda. Everyone had a chance to read over previous minutes.
Make the vote.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Shirley?
Chuck Davis,
Aye.
Kathy Barger,
Aye.
Doral Riley,
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next, we'll move on to new business. First one is West Ridge Business Center replat, vacate utility easement between lots 1 and 2, public hearing. David?
Yes, I'll try and juggle the Zoom and staff comments together.
Okay.
We've got on the screen, let me get to maybe an aerial map of this application, then I'll try and share the screen here. If I can find the aerial map, there we go. We have an application by Mark Riles, who's in the audience with us tonight with the Oklahoma State Cowboys hat. He submitted a petition to vacate a 10-foot wide utility easement through a vacant tract of ground north of First Missouri Bank. The property includes Lot 1 and the north part of Lot 2, West Ridge Business Center replat. So he owns parts of two different lots, one lot and part of another lot in that neighborhood. As part of that plat, there's a utility easement that was granted along the lot line between lots 1 and 2. Mr. Rao's goal is to purchase the property, replat the property, remove the property line, and then we would need to vacate that utility easement so that he can then build structures and buildings over the tops of those easements. We don't think there are any utilities that are in that utility easement corridor. A public notice was posted in the Kearney Courier on September 3rd and September 10th. I contacted all the utilities that serve our area and asked them to provide comments. Platte Clay Electric and Consolidated responded that they're clear with no facilities through that property. Spire's reviewing the request. They have multiple people that need to review those requests for various departments, but the contact person I talked to said that they didn't think that they had any facilities through the middle of that property either, so we think we're clear there as well. Those are the only utilities that have contacted the city back. Staff would recommend approval of this request to vacate the general utility easement between lots 1 and 2, West Ridge Business Center replat, with a condition that that 10-foot utility easement be dedicated back to the city as part of his proposed replat. When he removes that property line, then that south line, a utility easement would be granted as part of that plat drawing, replacing the easement that goes through the property. This request will be before the Board of Aldermen for review and consideration. This is considered a public hearing, so you want to open the floor for public comments as well. That's the end of my comments.
Okay, thank you, David.
Again, Mark Riles is the applicant who's here with us today in City Hall.
Okay, we'll open the floor for any comments. Mark, do you have any?
I don't have any comments on it. He covered everything. McLaughlin Mueller has been out at that site. We physically have gone over it and studied it pretty closely, and just like David had said, we do not believe anything is there. We located all the gas lines running parallel to sandbar, water, and everything's there. So we wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything running through that property that way. So, but everything looked pretty clear. But if you put any structures on it, it would be pretty challenging to have it separated like that.
Is there anybody on line, David?
No, I don't believe there are anybody online asking for comments here.
Okay. All right, we'll close that portion. And any board comments?
Did you say Mark only owned one of those two lots? or do you own both of them?
It will be both of them. The first lot, there's one lot, there's only 166 feet. Ed Walsworth and Scott Huddleston had sectioned that off and sold it, or someone sold it to First Missouri. So that's where things got kind of cattywampus over there. So there's a full-size lot and then a portion of another lot that's there on the right-hand side of that, green line.
Do all parties that own the property on these two lots, have they been advised of this? You know,
You mean
I wanna make
to
sure
the,
people
further to
on
the,
both sides are aware that this is happening.
Yes.
oh, the property he's purchasing, or is under contract for, is Lot 1 on the north side of the green line, so north side is to the left. He also owns that part of it that's on the south side to the, he also owns this part here. So it's kind of treated as all as one lot, or one
Okay.
property.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, for some,
Make sure there was a single owner.
right, yeah, it's all
Yes.
single owner. For some reason, when maybe First Missouri got it, they only acquired part of that property. There was a replat, this is if you notice the name is West Ridge Business Center replat. It may have something to do with the replat, maybe they acquired some ground before the plat or after the plat. Somehow, he's acquired ground that's not just Lot 1, it's also part of the next property to the south of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and First Missouri originally had that piece of property.
Well, that's
Right.
what I thought. That's why I was thinking it was two
Yeah,
different.
so we went ahead and pulled all the original documents to make sure there was no infrastructure under the ground, and they were First Missouri was supposed to continue building over on that lot, but it looked like in 2003, they gave up on that and sold the property to Walsworth and Huddleston.
Okay.
But yeah, we checked pretty extensively to make sure there was nothing that was existing there.
All right.
And we did get permission, verbally and through, email. I think David has the confirmation from the owner that he's okay with this as well.
Right, yeah, we always request owner authorizations if somebody is an agent for the owner.
Okay.
The intent, at the end, this happens, the green line that represents the current easement, your plan would be to put that easement on the right-hand side of the dark box.
Correct, yeah, so this green, in a way, it won't really go away. It will go away at this location, but when he replats the property to combine all of this into one, then he'll rededicate that utility easement along this property line here.
Anything else? Would entertain a motion then? Anything, Kathy?
I make a motion to, accept the petition to vacate utility easement between lots 1 and 2 with, to include, the recommendations by staff.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Do a roll call.
Chuck Davis,
Aye, or yes.
Kathy Barber,
Aye.
Doyle Riley.
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
It passes 4-0.
Okay. Thinking. All right, next. Dovecot amended preliminary plat for Phase 3, Allentown Properties.
I'm sharing my screen again so that we can move to that agenda item. We have Ron Calgar here tonight, who's online via Zoom, representing the owner, and also Andrew Palmer, who may be also representing the owner tonight.
I am.
That case. Is that true, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the company.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna get to the aerial map first, so we know where we're located. Ron Calgar, like I said, and Andrew are here tonight representing Craig Porter with Allentown Properties, the owner of the Dovecot, remaining Dovecot subdivision. The owner proposes to amend Phase 3 of the preliminary plat, resulting in 4 additional lots in the subdivision. The original preliminary plat was approved for 90 lots. Phase 1 was platted and final platted in 2002. Phase 2 came along in 2016. There was a big gap there where we had the downturn in our economy. So that's why there's about a 14-year, 12-year gap between the two. And then, they own phase 3, and they'd like to make some changes to that phase 3. In, the original preliminary plat was approved for 90 lots. There's some conditions attached to that approval as well, primarily tied to Meadowbrook Drive. It required 30-foot front setbacks for lots along Meadowbrook Drive, a 6-foot wide sidewalk along the south side of Meadowbrook Drive, and no driveway access to Meadowbrook Drive for lots on the corners that had frontage on a side street. In 26, I'm going to move over to some of the plans that we have. So this was the original 2002 plan. Phase 1's at the northwest portion. Phase 2 is down in the middle and the southern portion. And then, of course, Phase 3 is this area here on the east end. This is the 2002 plan. Meadowbrook Drive kind of went almost straight east and west with a bit of a curve. There's a north-south section along the east side and a stub out at the southwest corner facing to the east. I'm going to scroll to the 2016 plan. And 2016 plan, again, came about when they did the second plat. So this hazy dashed area is Phase 1. Phase 2 was this area down through the middle of the property. And in Phase 2, they narrowed some of the lots, and they picked up some additional lots in that Phase 2. And then Phase 3, they added a larger kind of a swoop to get a Meadowbrook connection a little bit further to the south. And then a little stub street at the southeast end was reoriented south, so that because it would have been very close to the Meadowbrook connection up at that northwest end. As part of their proposed changes in Dovecot third plat, this would be the 2020 plan. It's a little closer to the original 2002 layout, where Meadowbrook Drive would be moved a little further to the north, not as far north as the original, but closer to that north end to keep it a little straighter and hopefully provide a way to more easily connect out to Jesse James Farm Road in line with northeast 140th Street along Jesse James Farm Road. This Phase 3 actually has 31 lots proposed. The original 2002 plan in Phase 3 had 32 lots. So in a way, compared to the original approval, they would be reducing one lot. But because adding those 31 lots gets them above 90 lots for the entire subdivision, we needed additional approval from the board for those 4 extra lots that they would be proposing. The conditions of approval regarding setbacks, the driveway access along Meadowbrook Drive, and also the 6-foot wide sidewalk on the south side of Meadowbrook Drive would stay in place for this Phase 3. We have some additional exhibits that were in your packet that we can also scroll to. Ron tried to overlay the proposal with some of the old plans so that you could see underneath where those might lay in relation to what the new proposed layout has. This is compared to the 2002 plan. We have a copy with that 2016 plan where Meadowbrook Drive takes the big S curve and moves further south. This exhibit is the Phase 3. He also shows a possible way to get out and line up with 140th Street on Jesse James Farm Road. He doesn't have Jesse James Farm Road drawn in, but it's out in this general area here. And then he provided a copy with an aerial map, so you can see how it lays in those areas. Actually, in this area, you can see Jesse James Farm Road, north and south at this end here. Staff would recommend approval of this amended Dovecot preliminary plat for Phase 3. It's not a rezoning. I think maybe the staff report made a reference to rezoning. This is not a rezoning. It's just an amended preliminary plat with the following conditions: that the amended preliminary plat for Phase 3 is approved as presented. Additional revisions recommended by the P&Z if necessary. that the conditions of approval with the original preliminary plat remain in effect, including the 30-foot front yard setbacks for the lots along Meadowbrook Drive, sidewalk along south side of Meadowbrook Drive being 6 foot wide rather than 4 foot wide, and no driveway access onto Meadowbrook Drive for lots that have frontage on a side street, so basically the corner lots. That the parkland fee or fee in lieu of open space applies as always does. The engineering review fee is paid prior to constructing public improvements and development of the project in compliance with all city codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes. With approval by the planning commission tonight, that would give Ron some assurances that they can move forward with engineering plans and get those prepared so they can submit a final plat in the coming months. That's the end of my staff comments. Ron is online. If anyone had questions, or if Ron maybe wanted to add some additional comments for the board. I think he's here with us.
Hello, how are you folks?
Yes?
Nice to see you, even though we're not together tonight. It's been a long time. Can you hear me, David?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, very good. I won't belabor David's presentation. It was thorough and accurate. The real reason for the change was the 2002 plan was actually had the connection over to what would be the future connection over to Jesse James Farm Road actually being too far north. It actually went through, or it would have went through the bar's house and or barn. So we didn't think that was probably a great place to terminate that road for future extension over to Jesse James Farm Road. And then similarly, the 2016 plan actually brought the road so far south that it was all on Mr. Handy's property and lined up perfectly with an existing tree row. So we hit a hybrid here that actually splits the lot line in between the bar property and the Handy property. So we feel like that's an equitable way. That way they can both share an access of that road. And in addition, the road to the south, down by lots 78 and 79, give access to a new piece of property that Mr. Handy's acquired, that I think may be an application with the county right now, but there's no future plans of us. We just thought that was probably a good planning effort to put it headed to the south to hook into that larger parcel to the south. So saving trees and better alignments of the streets. Don't tell Mr. Porter, but we actually lost a lot from the 2016 plan, but I think we get a better layout and a better subdivision. Happy to answer any questions.
What's this tract C that's not a plot up here? This little skinny C, it's between 90, it's like
Right here?
93 and, no, up here.
At the very top.
Yeah, so
that area, it's not deep enough for a lot, so it'll be left as an open space tract on the north end.
yeah. And the 2002 plan as well as the 2016 plan both had those tracks in different forms and formats. It just gets so narrow up there because of how Meadowbrook Drive was left swooping up to the north. By the time we turn it back to a southeasterly alignment, it creates a small tract. So it would just be an HOA tract.
And Ron, the HOA is responsible for the tract C and tract A, and I'm assuming there's a tract B somewhere.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know A and C, but Kathy, to be honest, I don't know where B is. I assume it's in one of the.
But the HOA is responsible for that, maintaining that?
That's correct. That's correct.
David, what is
Yeah,
the,
when we have a final plat submitted, they'll submit HOA documents. A lot of times when you deal with future phases, the HOA document is more like an annexation of this into the into the previous, HOA documents, but we do receive those documents.
connecting to 140th, what is the county's guidelines for, obviously we wanna try and marry it up to where it's at Four Corners, but is there a distance away that, like, so that you don't have staggered?
You mean if there was an offset, is there a distance? Yeah, it's probably based on APWA specifications. I don't know that number. It varies depending on the speed of the street that you're connecting to. But there are some standards where you would have some offset, either try to line up, and if you can't line up and marry to that other side, then you have to be at least a certain distance away, to provide that gap.
I think lining up makes the most sense. How to get there?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna add, and if the alignment does change or need to change due to connection points along to Jesse James, or if the development of the Handy and Bar property require that, we've left the road in a neutral state. So it's in what we would call in a tangent. So you can either go straight east, or you could put a curve in it and go northeast or southeast. So there is some flexibility with this alignment. You've got the flexibility to align it to Jesse James however you want to. We just felt like 140th made a lot of sense since it was already an existing T.
All right, my question is, on 16, we had that little cul-de-sac up there on 64, 5, 6, and 7. Now, these drives on this new one the driveways on all of them will be on, what is that? Meadowbrook Drive?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Yes.
So
that curve there for them all to be in there? You're gonna add 4 more drives onto it.
Yeah, and if you go back to the 2016 plan, it also had 9 driveways along the collector.
Yeah, but they weren't in that curve.
Well, I would say they're even in a worse curve than a more drastic curve, because you've got the eyebrow or the knuckle, up there at 60 on the 2016 plan, 64 through 67. Those obviously wouldn't have direct access to Meadowbrook, but 90 through 85 would, as well as 68, 69, and 70. And the curve, there's actually a horizontal radius that is a design guideline of APWA. For a collector road, that's a 300-foot radius. So we are at least a 300-foot radius. You can certainly, I think you can tell from the 2020 plan to the 2016 plan that that's a much more mild curvature of the roadway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we're 9 driveways on the collector with the 2016 plan and 9 driveways on the collector with the 2020 plan.
All right.
Correct.
So David, on track C faces Meadowbrook, and there's not gonna ever be a house built on it. What about sidewalks on track C?
We'll request sidewalks be constructed along track C.
Okay, and by the developer,
Yes.
okay.
Can I look at the aerial map again?
Yeah.
Phil? Oh, quick.
This one,
Yeah.
this one?
Is there no plans to ever, like, is this cul-de-sac here, I assume, which goes out and hits 19th Street?
Right here?
Yeah, they were just never gonna connect to that?
Right, and that was,
Because that's outside the
if you looked at the staff report kind of comments on that.
Mhm.
back in the 2002 plan, I think that was brought up and in the minutes, and Kathy might remember, you might have been here, I wasn't here at the time, but at least I did some research on the minutes, and somebody on staff or had said something about, well, if the county can connect it, they can connect it, and it never happened. And I think it's my understanding, I've not found where, but I think there was a timeline maybe in there on when that connection needed to be made, and it has not been made. That gap is 215 feet, so it's a pretty good distance to make that connection.
And the homeowners at the
And-
time, that's is it Homestead, what is the name?
Homestead Hills.
Yeah, and those,
Yeah.
those residents were pretty adamant that they did not want
I
to
don't-
have it.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking about access, like, you know, like if you're fire and safety trying to come, emergency services trying to come in, there's one way and it's a long way in.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to try to go all the way through the high, but that's someday when we
Yeah.
get back to Jesse James Farm Road, that'll
That-
help solve
Right.
that.
And, yeah, I totally agree with you. That's the one thing that's always bothered me about this is there's one way in. And if something would happen at Meadowbrook that's like, I'm terrible with directions, but what is that?
East of the school, basically, yeah.
Yeah, if something would happen there, you've got basically 94
Mhm.
homes that can't get out or can't go somewhere or can't get emergency services to them.
Mhm.
So, finally getting the phase 3 finished where that we can look at getting that connected to Jesse James is really, to me, a life safety issue, so.
Yeah.
And we try to make those connections when we can. When we attach
Right.
to other subdivisions, we try to do that. Oakwood Estates is a good example. They're in a future phase that connects to the west to Applewood, I think. I think it's I'm trying to remember if Stallings Ranch had a connection to Fox Run. I just can't remember how Fox Run is laid out, but
I think it did.
we try to make connections in all the subdivisions because it is good for safety to have multiple ways in and out of a neighborhood.
And Homestead is still in the, Homestead cul-de-sac is still in the county, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ready for motion?
No more comments, I reckon look for a motion.
I move to accept with staff comments.
Can I ask a question, David? Can you explain that to me again? How come that can't be connected to Homestead Hills?
Well, I'm not not sure that the right-of-way exists.
It doesn't,
on that plat.
there's a 65-foot right-of-way into that,
And
I'm positive of that.
Yeah, I had commented in trying to do research of that subject a while, back when we did the second plat. Let me pull up my staff report here. This is in the minutes of one of the previous meetings. So the stub road to the north connecting with Homestead Hills, Homestead Hills Road ends in a cul-de-sac 215 feet north of Dovecot. City staff had testified back in 2002 during the preliminary plat for the original Dovecot subdivision that there would be no traffic through Homestead Hills unless the county decided to open up the road. No changes to the road have ever been made. So in that original plan, there was a stub street that was provided there, that there could be a connection, and that connection had never been made. So, and it's my understanding that I've heard, and I don't have anything that says it on paper, but that there was some kind of a timeline where that needed to happen, but I don't know, other than these comments from the minutes, when that was supposed to have happened.
Ron, this is Doyle. Have you, did you guys look into that at all?
I don't know what the time frame was, but Mr. Porter had indicated that the time frame had expired, and we weren't involved with this project early on. It was Alet Land Survey that had done that. but I do believe that everybody, the way everybody's remembering it is correct, that the hearsay that I have heard is the Homestead Hills folks did not want the road connection. And there was a time frame that would have allowed that road connection. But I believe that's expired, but I don't know what the date was. I've never seen a document to that effect. I don't believe that the right of way, I was actually trying to pull that up, the plat of Homestead Hills. I don't believe there's right of way between those two lots at the end of the cul-de-sac that would allow the road to extend. So, you know, if those folks aren't interested in extending that, then there would have to be some kind of potential hostile right-of-way taking from those two properties. The roadway could, the track C, David and I had looked at that while we were working out the options. Track C could allow for the road to connect through there if and when somebody wanted that to happen. But it seems pretty short-sighted to go ahead and stub that road in Dovecot 3 to the north when the number one, there's not right-of-way in Homestead Hills. And from what I understand, the Homestead Hill folks don't want their cul-de-sac to go away. And it's in Clay County.
Ron, I'm gonna try and pull up the plat. You may not be able to see it because I think I have, screen share on my staff report.
Okay, good.
Try and change that here in a minute. That's not the right subdivision.
Yeah, like, I feel like I need a technical support crew here to run audio and visual and support all of the exhibits that we've got to have, David.
Yeah. Ron, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, that
It ends in the back.
doesn't look like there's right of way on lot 15 or 14. It just terminates in the cul-de-sac. There are some dashed lines, but those would represent, I believe, well, and there's some really faint, what's that say? 50-foot easement?
65 feet.
Well, I can't read that, but I'm not sure what that easement is.
I'm gonna see if there's some notes maybe, Ron. Just peruse the plat. I don't see any other language pertaining to that. There's a road easement here. You see those, Ron?
I do. What is that, 20 and 20?
Yeah, probably driveway access for those lots, maybe, shared driveways, I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe that is what that easement says, is 50-foot road easement. I could,
Yeah, it is what.
Right here. Right.
now an easement, unless it's defined, is totally different than right of way. I don't think the rights would be the same as it being right of way. well, it depends how it was defined, if it was defined on the face of the plat. I'm not seeing where road easement's defined. Are you, David?
There's just a dedication.
The roadways and road, so the fourth line, fifth line down, the roadways and road easement within. Can you scoot that over for me?
That's as far as I can go there, Ron.
Gotcha.
Is that better?
Just says they're dedicated.
Yep. Within this plat are hereby dedicated for public use.
So if that does say road easement,
It says the roadways and road easements within the plat are hereby dedicated to public use. Utility easements are hereby dedicated to public utility use. Lots shall be subject to restrictions filed of record for Homestead Hills.
so in the picture, if that is a 50-foot road easement, what does that mean?
I would say that's probably a legal question on what the difference between a roadway, right-of-way, and a road easement are for.
And Ron, does the current track C align with that 50-foot piece of property in question?
So Homestead Hills, is it Homestead Hills Drive or Homestead Road, would have to start to jog over to the west. David, there's an exhibit that might benefit everybody. Yeah. Yeah, right there. So there you can, well, there you actually see that.
Yeah, Ron,
So
you
it would,
even label cul-de-sac up somewhere.
Yeah. So I tried to get an idea of where the cul-de-sac was. So I've denoted that, but you could see that if we ever needed, if anybody in the future wanted to get up to the cul-de-sac, you could do that by running a road to the west of lot 93 and tying it in there to the north. But that does appear that it would be outside of that existing easement because it kind of comes into the back of 93. David, do you have the ability to share where I can draw? Is everybody seeing that, what I just described?
Yeah,
Okay.
the county would have to approve that anyway, right? I mean,
Approve what?
connecting to Homestead Hills, because that's outside the city limits.
It is outside the city limits.
Yeah, so there's not
Legal
much.
question though. What does the term easement mean there? If
Right.
that is true road easement, and it says that all road easements will be public.
Yeah, and at what level does that mean? Does that mean extending a city street through there, or does it mean, similar to those other lots? Those
Right.
east and west lots, is that access some way for the adjoining property owners to move back and forth?
And the only way those two property owners up to the north of that is if they went in and vacated that easement, right?
What's
If
that?
they vacated that easement, it would be locked next at that point.
I guess, yeah, it could be vacated in some way.
And we don't know, we don't have any idea whether.
that doesn't affect this.
Right,
so-
right, no.
Right.
Right, yeah.
We're just trying to find out what.
Mhm.
We're ready for,
Was there already a motion on the table?
All of
Yeah, I
it.
think
Motion just needs a second.
yeah, motion to accept with staff comments.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Shirley?
Chuck Davis,
Aye.
Kathy Barger,
Aye.
Doyle Riley,
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
It passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Next on the agenda is Cottonwood Creek, third plat, final plat. David?
Actually, we've got two final plats for Cottonwood Creek third plat and Cottonwood Creek fourth plat. And I'd like to maybe give some staff comments together for them.
Okay.
They're so related to each other. Deer Valley, represented by Ron Calgar here tonight, and maybe Andrew. I'm not sure if Andrew's in on this project or not. Maybe he is. Chris Shipley is another person that we generally are in contact with this, for this project. Proposes Cottonwood Creek third and fourth final plats. Third plat proposes 16 lots, and the fourth plat proposes 24 single-family residential lots and one commercial lot. And we can go to those lots, or those plat phases if you'd like. This is third plat. At the north end, it connects to the back of phase 2. You head south here on this road, you connect into what's now the fourth plat. And this is the fourth plat, final plat. You'll notice there is a street connection out to Nation Road. On the north side of that street connection is Outlot 1, which would be a commercial zoned lot. Last year, third plat came through Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Aldermen was approved. Third plat actually covered what is proposed in this fourth plat, but because lot sales have gone well and construction's gone well this last year, they've decided to do both, final plat both phases, third and fourth, to finish out the residential portion of this subdivision. And in doing so, they flipped back to third plat being on the north side and fourth plat being on the south side. The reason for that is third plat's a little bit smaller. They'll do the utilities, underground utilities for both phases together, and do the streets in third plat this fall. That way they can record the final plat and start housing construction over the winter. They expect to have a break for winter, which affects street construction, so they'll pick back up the street construction next spring around March when things warm up. They'll build the second subdivision entrance, which is required to be done with phases 3 and or 4. And the idea there is in March, when they finish those street construction, the houses will be under construction in the third plat, and we'll have that road connection and those public improvements done before they're ready to issue any occupancies for the third plat houses. So there's kind of a timing. It takes approximately 6 to 9 months to build a house. So if they, let's say they in a position to record the plat in November or so, we issue building permits in November. It'll be July of next year or so before those houses will be ready to be occupied. So there's a little bit of a couple of months in their window that they're pretty comfortable that they can get that second entrance done. There've been conversations with the fire district about that as well. So those discussions have happened, and the fire district is okay with kind of how we're planning this out. Staff recommends approval of Cottonwood Creek third and fourth plats with following conditions, and they're pretty standard conditions, same as it was last year, except there was a little timing thing last year with a trail connection that was going to be made out along Nation Road. But conditions including submitting a revised final plat if necessary, providing a copy of DNR land disturbance permit, which we have on file already, installation and maintenance of sediment and erosion controls on site, payment of the parkland fee, which will happen at the time of building permit, submit a maintenance guarantee for public improvements when they're installed and accepted by the city, submitting as-built drawings upon acceptance of public improvements, recording the final plat within a year of alderman approval, recording covenants and restrictions with final plat ordinance, and developing the site in compliance with all city codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes. Staff recommends that you do maybe a motion for each plat separately, since there'll be separate ordinances when they go to the Board of Aldermen. And again, these will be at the Board of Aldermen, we expect next Monday at their meeting. And Ron's available for questions if anybody has anything specifically for the applicant.
The third plat has no drive access to Nation Road.
That's correct. Now, there's a cul-de-sac at that east end.
So the access is through phase 1 and phase 2.
And then when phase 4 comes in, they'll be just around the corner from that second subdivision.
Yeah, and if I may, real quick, this, you won't see a delay in construction. In fact, a lot of the utility construction, sanitary, storm, is actually coming from the south through what is now being called phase 4. So that's already getting built to be able to service phase 3, the two cul-de-sacs here that you see on the screen. The idea is not to have a break in construction, but we all know that we'll lose some time in the winter. We felt like we could get this cul-de-sac graded, the infrastructure built, and paved, because paving really becomes the trigger point in these subdivisions, especially when you're starting them in mid-September, to be able to get the pavement down before the weather gets too wet and cold to be able to pave effectively. So we knew that we wouldn't be able to get phase 4 done because it was so much larger, but we felt like we could accomplish phase 3. And as David had indicated, we sat down and met with himself as well as with Jeff Fort and talked about the timing and the strategy, and that none of the houses would be occupied until that connection was made out to Nation Road through phase 4. We also just as a sidebar, had a conversation with Mr. Fort about the ability to access in an emergency, God forbid scenario. You could access Willow Lane from Nation Road very easily with the equipment that he has. There's very little grade change. There's a small road ditch, which Mr. Shipley had indicated he would be happy to put in a road culvert in the short term until phase 4 got built. So it's strictly just a timing thing and trying to keep momentum while the economy's good. Happy to answer any questions.
David, can you talk about the sidewalk that's supposed to go in along Nation Road, and who's going to be responsible for that piece at Cottonwood Creek?
In front of these plats?
Yeah, well, I know the city's already agreed to do, or we've already got a contract to go how far on Nation Road?
That Dogwood sidewalk project will go
Yeah.
from Dogwood down to it'll tie into Woodridge Road, so the south entrance of Westwood.
Okay.
And then there'll end up being a gap. There's not a sidewalk there now that extends further south to Cottonwood.
Right.
We're kind of looking into that and maybe making that a project that we try to work on in the future. It's not part of their project. Now, what they will do, and in the third plat, they'll construct that sidewalk trail. I call it sidewalk trail because it's concrete like a sidewalk, but it's 8 foot wide. They'll construct the third plat portion with the third plat, and they'll construct the fourth plat portion, which is in front of that outlot, and then at the subdivision entrance with the fourth plat.
Okay, so then really the sidewalk will just be in the hills of Westwood and what's the village that won't have anything along Nation Road. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Yeah, there'll be a gap of it's about 1,100 feet or so,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, last year, if you remember, when third plat was the south plat, and then fourth plat was going to be the north plat, there was a question about whether or not we should do, they should do the little section on the fourth plat, because then there'd be a gap between the now third plat and then the existing first and second plat. And, but since they've changed the phases around, that's not going to be an issue for them, because the third plat at the north end will tie in the first and second, and then fourth will come. I know I was probably confusing, but,
It's just harder when you don't have.
yeah.
No idea.
All right, you wanted a motion on these for two different ones, right?
Yeah, we'll do a motion for
Yeah,
the,
that would be
for the
appreciated.
third plat, final plat. and then-
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the Cottonwood Creek third plat.
With staff recommendations.
Yes, with staff recommendations.
I second it.
A motion and a second. Shirley, roll call.
Chuck Davis,
Aye.
Kathy Barger,
Aye.
Doral Riley.
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
It passes 4-0.
All right, now we'll entertain, there's no more comments on Cottonwood Creek fourth plat, final plat. Entertain a motion on that one.
I'll make a motion to accept with staff recommendations.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, Shirley?
Aye.
Chuck Davis, Kathy Barger,
Aye.
Doral Riley.
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
It passes 4-0.
All right.
Thank you very much and have a great evening.
All right, thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
You bet. Stay safe, everybody.
Old business. See, anything to add, David, on old business?
Not really.
Further comments? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, Shirley?
Chuck Davis,
Aye.
Kathy Barger, Doral Riley.
Aye.
Paula Noble.
Aye.
It passes 4-0.